Hello everybody and welcome to episode 4 of my basing techniques series. Now we're actually going to go back in the past. We're going to time travel here. This is the time before those nifty green stuff world texture rollers. It's when I used to make bases like this one right here. Now I have a whole different camera setup. Actually, this is an entirely new station. I think I was telling you about that for doing stuff like basing and other rough things. So the cameras are going to do different stuff that you're not quite used to because it's an entirely different machine, different cameras, the whole shebang. But see that base right there? See these bases right here? Now we're going to be working on stuff just like that. Now the green stuff texture rollers, they're fantastic. They have themes. There's lots of 40K ones now. There's Necron, Tau, Elder, and we're going to work with all those. But what happens when you don't have those sheets, which for many years I didn't have? What are you going to have to do? Well, you're going to have to take a piece of white Sculpey like this, and you're going to have to carve in the texture like so. So here, let's do this in an oblique fashion like this. There we go. You can see that now. So all that texture had to be carved in there. That was the old-fashioned way. Now this is a very different type of Sculpey. This is white. This is the stuff I tell you never to use with the green stuff world sheets or texture rollers. This breaks really easy. So now you know why we use the gray for this kind of a task, because it doesn't break quite as easy as this does. Now we've got some sheets rolled out, and these I can actually roll out in it's called a clay extruder. It's a freaking pasta machine. That's all it is. And I roll them out on the ceramic tiles just like I would with my other green stuff world texture roller sheets. Now the difference is, see, I've got some thicker sheets right here, and I made some that are almost twice as thick as this. And so it's a whole different mindset with this. We're building things. If you've seen the blasted concrete bases or the sci-fi ones, you know that this stuff is really easy to carve and to break, so you can do more of that kind of thing. We're also going to use some standard cork here. We just got some more of this at Office Max or Office Depot, whatever it was, yesterday, so I can start making some more of these for you. It put the idea in my head, because I used to use the Sculpey and the cork, and there's been a heavy emphasis on the green stuff world texture sheets, but why not do this? Why not do this too? Like I said, see, we've got some smaller ones here. Like I said, this is going way back into the past. Look, there we go. So we're also going to paint the bases. Making the bases, to be honest, is pretty simple. There's not a whole lot of complicated stuff involved with that. But we're going to add a few new twists. Speaking of green stuff, where we do have the flaming skulls that we can add. We have regular skulls that we can add. Maybe you could add one of these type of sculpted pieces right here. We'll see. The main emphasis is actually on the carving of the bases like this, showing you how to do that, because you can see that's the exact same texture that you got here. And then how to paint this stuff. How to paint some marble, and then how to do the cracks. These I don't have the shell casings with me right now. I thought, it's just shell casings. You can put those on yourself. You can even make them out of just plastic styrene rod. So there's another example. See, we've got those marble squares here. That's something you haven't really seen me do since the original Painting Pyramid series. Now that, why not blend some of the old, some of the new together and see how that goes. Now we've got some of the same sculpting tools, or in this case carving tools. You can see that's the 90-degree edge. Sorry, we've got this one here that's the flat edge for basically carving away tiles that are completely broken away. We've got some of these other tools here for scoring. Right here, a couple of these scoring tools. And if you've seen the Painting Pyramid videos, you know that I use those exact same tools on those early videos. We also have this, it's a simple little wood carving tool right here. That's all it is. X-Acto knife. Like I said, none of this stuff is going to be really new to you. And we also doing some painting videos. Some of these old style Terminators right here. Now I may paint them in the alabaster scheme. I don't know. That depends. Because I'm going to take you now. Take you to some old blog posts here, and you'll see what these guys looked like more as a unit. So there you go. So there's the Terminator guys, including the one I just had in my hand. He's off on the left hand side there. So you can see even just what that did. All it was a simple sheet of Sculpey, a little bit of carving, a little bit of paint, and look at what it adds. Now, like I said, I might do a new version of that color scheme and a new version of glowing weapons and object source lighting and all that. I may do a couple of different colors on these guys, some that are more metal. See, we got the cloaks there, so I thought you could have some fun also with the painting of these things. So yeah, we're gonna update these guys because those are from a long time ago. I do not paint that way anymore, and that's what I want you to see, is that evolution. And here you go. Look at that white Sculpey. You can see the carving happen. Oh, look, the same tools. The same exact tools. Oh, look, our jeweler's block right there, probably with a few less cut marks in it. But there you go. There's your tiles, and there's your flat white Sculpey, and there is your, right over there, see that? There's your pasta machine. It's al dente. Well, your Sculpey's very al dente after it comes out of the stove. Now look at this one, slate colored tile here. See those round pieces? See the bricks? See those? All of that stuff is white Sculpey. When I bake my Sculpey, I do sheets. See those, the little round oval, or the round cylinders over there? That was for broken columns. It actually worked out really well. Just after seeing this, when I was looking at the old blog post, I'm going to try and incorporate some of that too. Because you've seen me using the broken bricks in the, that was series 2 with the Winter Soviets. And then now you can see the bases start to get a little bit of paint on them. See the same rock and gravel sort of thing. Now if you have extra bits, like say a little chaos bit that I threw in there, some broken shoulder pads, those sort of things, and you can see here, just they're snipped off of those sprues. These are the old-fashioned metal Terminators. So see how that stuff is all broken away right there. Now we also have the oxide paste, just like we did in this episode. Oh, look at that, there's the same scoring tool. So it's all going to be pretty familiar to you. And there's a bunch of these bases, and that's what they looked like before paint. But I want to see, I only took it as far as that. I want to do some painting for you. Now with the announcement of the Golden Demons, this is something for you folks here on the Patreon page. That is now returning to Adepticon, which means I can start doing gaming figures again and stuff for Golden Demons, which you will see. You'll see the entire process play out. This is my last gold squad. I think I got 2 or 3 golds for squad over the years back in the day, and this was the last one in 2010, 2011, whenever the last Chicago Games Day was. So what we'll do is we'll kind of reprise maybe this color scheme a little bit and the basing, just to show you how things evolve over the course of many years. I just thought this could be something really fun for you to see, because I know I paint very differently. Heck, I might even paint some of these in oils. Now that's going to be it for the materials, except I do want to talk about these. Speaking of jeweler's blocks, see all these cut marks and everything in here? All of those cut marks are caused by stuff like this. My razor saw, I hear that sound, that nice metal sound that it just made. That's how you cut the figures off of those nasty sprues. But this is what keeps your hands safe right here. So I strongly recommend having these guys. Alright, so what we're going to do is going to set things up, get the tools out, get things in position, and we're going to start making some bases. So let's get this show on the road here. And I'm just going to use some of these wooden MDF bases here. I have to save some of my 40 mils for some upcoming fantasy things that I'm doing. And what we have to do first is we got to get ourselves some cork down here. You can do multiple levels of cork. So see we have a multi-level base right here. We're going to do a few of those. Well, let's just do another base like this one right here. So we've got our cork. Now you can see there's a little difference in the grain. Every cork tends to be a little bit different. I like the one that I'm holding here, this piece, a little better because it's got bigger chunks, and when they break off they look more like rocks. And I've got a new thing here, and its texture is, and that's a little bit different. I think it might be more, yeah, it's more like this one right here. So I think that'll be good for some future bases. And what do? You just start to fracture some of these. So we're just gonna go like so, just like that. Doesn't have to be perfect or neat or anything like that. We're just going to fracture it a little bit. And then now something like this is where, actually let's here we can take advantage. We'll save this if you're doing a base like that. So instead, sorry about the voice there. Here, let's go right about there. You can see we've got a couple of overhangs. That's really not a big deal because now there's always enough places. Things can get fit to be, even with overhangs. This stuff can all go base to base because we're not overhanging it everywhere. That's the key, is only have some overhangs. Let's get this one off of here, get it out of harm's way. And it's really, you could take something like, Elmer's glue, wood glue, or whatever, just to make sure that this all dries fast enough. I'm going to use mostly super glue here. Now I could, and I think I may still actually throw just a dot of the Elmer's glue on there for a little long-term hold, because you got two sort of absorbent surfaces here. You got wood to cork. It'd be different if it was plastic to cork. So again, the camera is gonna do some little back and forth things because it is basically, it wants to autofocus on everything. Now I can give this a shot and see if I've got the autofocus off, and it looks like I do. Alright, that's good, because that's going to drive me nuts too. So remember we were talking about doing a second base that's going to have just a layer of Sculpey. Look at this. We're going to break away a few of these pieces. We've got a shot, or a spot right here where we can put our Sculpey. So let's throw this right away. Throw this down here. Like so. Make sure we give ourselves enough room for that Sculpey. There's our third one. And you want to save these, because even if you don't use them for this particular project, you'll see me in other videos using them more like this. See how we've got our second level built up there. So always just, you never know when these things can come in handy. Or let's do this right away here. Bang. And we're gonna let's glue these down right now. Why am I doing this? Because there's gonna be a piece of Sculpey going over the top of that. You won't see that particular ridge line. So let's throw some glue down here, because we'd end up with all kinds of little scraps like that and just didn't know what the heck to do with them. Sometimes I would use them for things. There, like that. And what can we do here? Let's just take a little spot of our glue here, and we could even do something like this. So see, we've got this other piece left over here. Here, let's just take this part away. Boom. So we've used a bunch of leftover pieces instead of having to find a brand new piece. There you go. There's a whole nother base. So let's see what we get. Let's see what we get out of this piece right here. So let's go. I have to choose now. See if I go here. Now there's a whole bunch of overhang. What if I go here? Lets me do a few different things. So like I said, it's pieces of Sculpey can go down here. So let's do this one again. That was fun. I do like to have the multi-level ones like that. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of the glue out here. I'm gonna get myself a dot or two of the Elmer's glue. I really love that tight bond wood glue though. It dries fast and it's got a really incredible hold. Just I'm gonna have to get some more because between terrain and everything else you just end up using up a whole bunch of it. Now here's another piece. Once again, that could be a piece or a base where we have a little bit of the Sculpey going on. Now this is another thing we talk about all the time. We talk about the footprint of a miniature. So that's a fairly wide footprint right there. But you can see even the cork covers it. Because if I do something that's too narrow, unless he's up on 1 foot or something like that, it's not going to hold him. And remember, this is metal. So there's a lot of weight that you're going to have to hold. So let's get this puppy thrown on here. Now here's another thing too. Okay, what if we do something like that? Let's get this so you can see sort of what it is. There we go. So it's got that little face on there. What the heck? But let's just do it. Let's do it so you can see what it looks like. No sense in just saving those pieces for some future video that never gets made. So in we go with our glue here, like so. Alright, get that down. And there's our little statue piece. So that's nice. So we already got ourselves a decent collection of bases here. I think that's maybe enough of the big ones. Let's make a couple more small ones here. Now, this is something I have done on other ones, where you just kind of throw that on there, but where's the figure going to go? We also have this thicker Sculpey right here, so let's make a small base. So see how easy that just broke? Now, you can also see that we've got overhang everywhere. What were we saying about overhang? We don't want quite so much. There's a couple of ways I can do this. I can take something like this and snip it away. I also have just a little pliers tool right here. So I can hold that in place and just break some of that away. Like that. Break a little more away just to make that edge more uneven. So there you go. And this is also where, I don't want to say safety comes in, but it sort of is where safety comes in. Now we've got a couple of tools here that we can use. Are we going to use our this, or we can use this. Now this is typically what I'm going to be doing here. So again, I apologize if there's just a whole lot of light there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move this light away like that. And I'm just going to carve away. See how gently I'm carving away at this? I don't really run the risk of stabbing myself. And look at this. It's not that big a deal. But if you're worried about it, see, you can do something like this. So when the knife comes down, what is it doing? It's sticking into, it's going right into your little tray there, or your little jeweler's block. There's maybe another term for them, maybe be called something else. You look for them on Amazon. They're, good grief, $5-6 for something like this, prime. So that's not too bad here. Let's get some of these edges going in the opposite way here. Now this will be straight up super glue because the plastic base is not really going to care about Elmer's glue. So we'll just go straight up super glue on that. Pop that baby on there. Good to go. I've got even thicker Sculpey right here. So here I am going to see what difference that makes. That's a little too dark. This is even thicker. Look at how thick that is. Now, basically what that does is it, instead of using the cork, now it's just all one piece of Sculpey. Here's one more small base. Now again, fracture that, and then we start to think about positioning it onto the base. So let's snap off some of this here. And this is what I love. Look at how that just, well, I wish you could see that right there. Just got a nice little texture. And there we go. So once again, we have overhang, yes, but we have places that are open and free. What we're going to do is just get in, do a little carving here, not too much because that's already a nice rough texture in there. A really nice rough texture. I'm going to glue this down too. Well, actually I'm going to go in here a little bit more. It's just a little too flat. There we go. I'm going to get some glue in here. Just like so. Pop that baby right on there. Set that aside. Let that dry for a bit. When we bring out some of these that we just did before with our cork. Let's get some of these little Sculpey bits out of the way. Now what I'm going to do first, actually, are these two where you've got multiple areas to cover. Now this is where I'm going to grab my thinner Sculpey sheet, like so, and let's start breaking this. So I'm just going to break it like that. And then I'm going to hold it up over my base. Start breaking it again. So that could be for that one. There we got another long piece that we got to break off there. Oh look, that probably is going to fit right in there. And that's going to fit over the top. Now I can see that I've got a couple of things going on here. So this edge is too regular. I think you can see that pretty easily. So what I'm going to do is, while I've got it here, I'm just going to get in here and carve a little bit of that away. Now the white Sculpey, and this was always an issue, just the lights immediately burn it out. And one of the things I've found with these, the exploit on this machine and this setup, is it just wipes out my camera controls. So I can't really adjust a lot of things like I would. When I tested it, I could do that. And now that I'm filming, of course, it won't let me do that. But I think you can still get the general gist of it. Got ourselves a nice Sculpey piece that goes over the top of that. And we've got ourselves something that can go here. But let's take our small piece here. Gonna break that again. And we're going to do this exact same process like we did before on the other one. We're just going to take some of this away. Like I said, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can do something like this. So right there we've got it on our jeweler's block. See, and I'm just snipping away a few pieces here. So this is 100% safe. I mean, there's just, if I find some way to cut myself here, I'm really doing something hideously wrong. And that's what I really like about the jeweler's box. So now we got ourselves a nice piece of Sculpey. You can see that matches some of the outline of our cork. Let's make sure we got that orientated the correct way. Now we're going to glue that down. Again, I'm going to go with a combination of the super glue and just a dot of the Elmer's glue here, because we got essentially two absorbent surfaces. So that's good. We'll chuck that off to the side. We're also going to glue this one the same way. A couple dots. And then we'll get in here with a little bit of our glue. Get that on there so that it has a chance to dry. Now we've got these extra pieces. Ah, good. I actually do have one of these. Let's see how that works. There we go. Now I could even do something like that. I also have this piece here that I'm probably going to break for in there. So let's set that off to the side. But now I've got this. That's kind of nice, because that actually sort of works right around the edge. And you say, well, what about this crack? Well, we can either make that more of a crack, or we can take the oxide paste and cover over the top of it. We can go either way with it. What I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to glue that stuff in place, and what we'll do is we'll carve it afterwards when it's all had a chance to dry. Now this is a little bit, see how that's more of a gel type glue there. This is Loctite. Yeah, Loctite. Really love this stuff. Works well for miniatures too, especially when you're doing, say, resin stuff and you want to almost fill in a little bit of gaps. So here, we'll put that in there. Gonna let that dry just like everything else. Now I got to get back to our Sculpey here. Once again, I'm going to break it over here because I already have a rough edge. I like to do this sometimes. See, instead of straight up and down, watch, I'm going to break it this way. Now I can even use something like this to help that along. See, we're just kind of break it like so. You saw that had a little bit of flexibility to it. I gotta tell you, every oven is different. And I tell people, if you're gonna bake Sculpey, not only do you need to bake it on that ceramic tile and not on your cookie sheet or anything like that, unless you want Sculpey cookies. Some people might. We're not thrilled with Sculpey cookies. We love Sculpey, but not for eating. Try it on different settings. Put a little piece of Sculpey on a tile and put it on each level, because most ovens have 2-3 levels, right? Even toaster ovens, some of the fancier ones, have 2 or 3 levels. So give it a shot. See what happens. Here, let's do a little bit of this. And you can see it's gentle. That's why I'm not worried about cutting myself. All I'm doing is just taking this knife and just running it along the edge. And what that's doing is it's smoothing it out a little bit. It's not creating huge, gigantic chunks taken out of it. It's just making it a little less stark. Alright, so let's do that. Let's get that glue down there. Or just a couple of glue spots there. Get the Elmer's glue out. And the Elmer's glue is almost for more of a long-term hold. The super glue is to sort of hold it in place for the here and now while the Elmer's glue takes hold. With that in place, now we've got this other chunk right here. And what do? We can tell we want something that's vaguely round. So here, let's do this in a way that's technically going to be more safe. See, look at it. I can even cut away from myself. I do need to take a little bit out of here though. I think that is going to make that. Oh look, it fits. It fits just nice. We're going to put it this way. Now we do have some other smaller bits and pieces. Oh, like this one here. Here, let's see what that looks like. So we can throw that one in there as essentially another broken piece. Here, let's make that a little less. See, I got that rounded edge there. That's from when I actually baked it. You always want to try and kill off those straight edges. So there we go. It looks now like a broken marble floor. We're gonna go with that gel type glue again. I really like that. Pop this in here, pop you in here, and actually make sure that there's a little bit of a gap there on purpose. Now we've got a couple of more of these to take care of. We got this guy here. And once again, breaking the Sculpey. Going to find a good edge for this. I'm going to go this way with it. Why? Because I can get a whole nother base out of that. You'll eventually learn how to maximize the placement of your Sculpey also. So we've got that. Now, like I said, if you're not super comfortable with that, you take your snips here, snip it away. It's just as good because it's also going to create that same irregular edge that you're looking for. So it's the best of all worlds there. It's a little more safe. There we go. That's pretty well managed. What we are going to do though, this is a little weird having this. So I'm just going to cut some of it away like that, and then cut away some of my Sculpey. So see how safe that was? My hands over here, everything is going this way. Don't have to worry about any kind of injuries or whatever. That's the way to do it. But I do have to get in here and do a little edge management on this. You can take these even farther, whatever the expression is, by taking little pieces of plastic card or even rolling out Sculpey in thinner sheets. And now you've got, say, like the individual tile, which is now sort of out of place. It's been taken away, it's kind of lifted up and now off kilter, especially when you're doing these square tiles like this. So maybe we'll do that on a, well, not maybe, we're certainly going to be doing that on some future video, no doubt about it. So that's in place now. That's all good. Let's get this off to the side. We've got this puppy here. Let's find ourselves our Sculpey again. So we're going to do something like this now. What if you run into something, this is all you got left. You either have to bake a whole new Sculpey sheet, or you got this. You got those three pieces to work with. Well, what about, we're doing a little bit of jigsaw puzzle stuff here. So what about something like this? I like that edge a lot. I am going to just fracture this, and we're trying to do it the so-called safe way, like that. And I'll break some of that away. So now you see what we're doing, where it's not going to be a total continuous thing. It's going to be broken into pieces. Oh, look at that, we got another piece right there. So this way we didn't have to bake a whole new piece of Sculpey just to accommodate this space. And having it be broken like that and uneven, that could be really neat. So let's just gonna make sure I like that orientation. Yeah, we'll go with that. orientation there, but I am going to do something like this because that's just too straight. It wouldn't really, I don't want that straight of an edge on it. I love this. I absolutely love that. So yeah, that is really cool. That's, ooh, do I go this way with it? Actually, I sort of like this can happen to you where you, oh, I got this is a neat shape, neat shape. Well, we're gonna go like this. I'm gonna break that away. I also will once again say for this, you most definitely don't want to use like the pink Sculpey or any of those Sculpies that are a color, because you will not be able to do all this nifty carving and breaking that I'm doing. Yeah, that's not going to happen so much. Not so much. It's going to be way, way more difficult. It's not going to carve like this. It's not going to break. It's either going to, one of two things. It's either going to shatter. I'm just trying to position. Yeah, let's go with that. It's either going to shatter or you're going to have a heck of a time trying to carve it. And this part is not so bad, but I'll tell you when it comes to the part where we're trying to score it, and then we'll do that in the next segment here, because this one's, we don't want to go over too long with the filming here. So here, let's drop this down, get some glue out. I'm going to use a little bit of that gel style glue, and we're going to throw down regular glue, and let's get our jigsaw going here. Like that, and I'm going to leave some gaps on purpose. Now I've got this other thing here. A couple of things. So I could try and find another piece to stick in there, or it's a good place maybe to put one of our flaming skulls right in there. So we're just going to leave that go. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got plenty of bases right here. I think we got enough to paint. I think we got enough to carve. So what we'll do is I'll let this dry just for a couple more minutes so that things don't fall apart when we're carving it. But what we're going to do is we're going to get out some of our little carving tools here, like so. And we're going to carve some lines and texture into this Sculpey. So we'll be right back with that. So now it's time to carve ourselves some texture into our plain old white Sculpey. And what do I mean? Just like what we did here. So you can see it's a little less nuclear right there. You can even see those little cracks that we carved in there. That's where you're going to see stuff like that. That little scoring tool there. But we're going to try and repeat this design and this design as much as possible. You say, okay, why do more or less of the red marble or whatever? Well, the words themselves, they actually had some meaning, because the words would talk about what the character had, if it was a sergeant, a captain, whether it had special weapons or not. So that had a bearing on what was going on. But also here, this red, I'm going to steal one of these guys back again. If he's standing on that red marble, well, now I had a chance to reflect that red onto the figure. How many times have we been talking about reflecting the environment? So I did these as shiny gray knights, which I did way back in the day. Now you got something to reflect. This, it would be really tricky to reflect that tile pattern, but it could be really fun. So we're going to try and get as much of those three designs as possible. And what you're going to want, found this out the hard way, you're going to want something like a pen, because see how where the lines are carved away, there's no more pen? That's at least just a general reminder to yourself to say, you know what, gotta carve this, I forgot something here. Now what we don't want to do is just necessarily follow these lines, so we try and make these a little more asymmetrical. So let's get this centered for you here. So maybe something like this. And here's our little breakaway line, like so. And then another line right here. And this is where our letters are going to go. Now with this, we're not going to continue it like that. What we're going to do is break it up like this. And I'm going to say we're going to go like that. Going to leave this out because our words are going to continue over here. But now we're doing our tile texture here. We're just going to go right about like that. So it looks like all of this has been, like I said, it looks like it's been broken up. Now on this one, a couple of ways we can go with this. Actually, before I forget, let's see if we can't break this up a bit. Now this is a carving tool that we're going to use there. In this segment here, I just want to do a little bit. See how that, once again, very safely, just look at that. Look at what it does to that edge. Just breaks that up. We're not, look at that. Does a nice, nifty, there, look at that. That broke up that edge right there. We have to decide. Now, to me, it made more sense to just continue the red marble onto here. I think because, well, it's hard to translate that pattern into a bunch of little pieces. So we're going to do something similar on this too. We also don't want to do something like this where we divide this tile right in half, or this base right in half. So I'm going to go this way with it, so beyond half, and I'm also going to go this way with it, like that. There's the other end of our, or other part of our little gold dividing line. Now, good, you can still see that. Let's get ourselves our, you could use a ruler for this. It's, hey, why not? It's not a big deal. You could use a straight edge or something like that. To me, it's just, I just kind of eyeball things. It's all going to go away anyways. It's all going to be carved away. So there we have, again, another design established. This one here, we definitely want this part to be on the reddish side. So let's go about there. We're going to do our line here because I want to have enough space for my letters, right? Go as a here. Yeah, I'm gonna change this around so I don't have. Yep, I'm gonna go like this, and that's gonna be the red, and this will be where my letters go in here. So made a change. Here, I'm gonna move this up a little bit. And then, even here, I'm trying to think, okay, I'm trying to break this into uneven pieces too, not straight down the middle. And then, see how we get a little bit of each piece in there? This one's extra tricky. I am going to go this way. So all that's going to be red over there. Red marble, I suppose I should say. Now let's break this right here. I'm gonna do it that way. Now we got just enough here for a few of our letters, and maybe even just one tile. Here's another thing too. We talk about army painting. Well, doing it that way, maybe I just save myself a little bit of time. Because now I don't have to break up quite as much. Now this one, I'm not actually going to do any letters on it. I might just want to do something like that, little symbol, paint that in like so. So that one I'm just going to leave. And we just got one more of these. We'll keep this one simple. We will do our little pattern on it here. Some letters, and then just one little thing there to divide up those tiles. This one, let's go this way, like so. Another one there. So let's start carving these guys. Now, Kathy and I, we always fought over this tool right here. See that V shape in there? It's a 90-degree angle. Boy, we both love this tool. I'm going to get these other bases out of the way here so nothing happens to them. Alright, I got this pretty well set for you to see, and I think because of the blue or the pen line here, you'll be able to see this. Now watch what's going to happen. So I've got my hand not going this way with it, going this way with it, and you'll probably be able to see that little tendril of Sculpey. See how that's moving like that? Pushing it, pushing it, pushing it, pushing it. Now you don't see that line anymore. So when I hold it like this, now you can see how that's carved in there. And I'm constantly taking this and pushing away. And you say, okay, why are you using that? Now I'm going to do one more pass there. Why are you using that tool instead of this one or this one? These tools are designed to make shallower lines, and it's also a little more difficult. Here, let's get this going here. It's more difficult to keep a straight line going with these. You can. It's something I used to use all the time. So you can see how it's just carving that away. However, as I hold it like this, it's going to be a little more uneven. So there's a little bit of waviness there. It's easier to keep this thing straight. See, I just push it like this, nice and straight, and it also makes a deeper cut, which is what we want, right? We want to have a deeper cut. Look at that, how easy that is. So it's just so much easier than this. But you say, well, what's that one for? Now, here, there we go. Let's make ourselves a little bit of a crack right there. See that? So that is what this tool is good for. That's what this tool is good for. So you can see, we're going to do that again here. Another one right there, and we try and sort of connect the cracks, basically. Let's put another one. I'm going to go with one right here. So I'm going to see if I can't make a shadow with my hand here. So now you can see it. So I just did there. So I just connected that little crack. So it's something you're going to see more when we start painting it, and we maybe throw some primer, some glazes over the top of that. So we're doing this, getting in here, making our long lines. See all that stuff just being plowed away. It's like plowing a field. And it starts to happen pretty fast, and then you can get in here, and it's easier to just hold it on its side, and you can see how pieces of that Sculpey fracture away. that's not a bad thing. That's actually ideal, because what it's naturally fracturing. Look at that, there's a fracture point right here. I wish you could see that. So right here, there's this little dip, and I'm going to try and connect that with a crack. So we're going like this, and then bang like that. So now you can see that a little bit. Unfortunately, there's no other, I can't use another color of Sculpey because it defeats the whole purpose of using the white Sculpey. Yeah, and there's just pretty much nothing you can do with white Sculpey. It's just going to be very reflective, and it's going to, the camera's going to want to burn out, especially when, for whatever reason, XSplit takes away all of my camera controls. Like I said, this is a brand new setup, and this is it's a special one for you guys. If you've seen the other episodes on it, from the painting pyramid side of things, you already kind of know a little bit what's going on here. What is that? The sculpting marble and cobblestone bases, I think it was called. So you get the gist of it. Yep, see here, I didn't get a chance to let that glue dry all the way. Normally, I'd be working a lot more bases than this. We call them basically basing days, and that's where we'll just sit there and make dozens, if not potentially hundreds of bases. So I don't have to worry about things like that, where stuff just kind of fractures or moves off, literally crawls right off the base. So there we go, we've got ourselves some nice texture right there. See that? See all those little subtle cracks in there? Let's go with this one. Once again, doing our lines. What I'll do is I'll do one more of these, and then I want to get into gluing the... Here, let's move this down here. My rocks on the sides of the base here, and the oxide paste, because there's this special reason for doing that. There we go. We need one more right here. And once again, so I'm going to grab hold of this here so it doesn't slip off like the other one tried. And look at that. Just some nice natural fracturing right there. That'll be fun to paint in. It's all about connect the cracks. Here, let's extend this out to the edge. Once again, chipping away at things that you'll be able to see pretty clearly once it's time to paint these puppies. So, all right, with that, here, let's just do let's do one more of these. Actually, I don't have quite as many bases as I thought I have. It's nothing terribly fancy. We also want to maybe throw out some of those flaming skulls. In terms of priming these, because that's what I'm going to do off camera, just to save time, I'm just going to take the Badger Stynylrez and heck, we're going old school, I'll just brush it on like we used to do back in the day. So you don't really need to see me brush on primer. I think that you can figure that out all by yourself, no problem. Here, just get that there. A little more. There. Just got one more. And now we're doing our little thing where you'll start to, as you work more with the Sculpey, it'll be more instinctive for you. You'll just kind of know. You won't have to guess. For me, I can feel where the scope is probably going to break. You just get a sense for it. I can't really describe it in any other way. You don't necessarily need to put cracks everywhere. That's that less is more type saying, right? There. You can see that a little bit better now. Actually, this looks like the last base. It's just this one I gotta be careful because there's probably some wet glue here. So this one I'm gonna have to be a little more gentle with. Let's go this way here. Carve out our last few lines. And if it's uneven, well, that's really not a problem. Sometimes the Sculpey is going to have air bubbles in it. I will say that. It's the better you get at doing the Sculpey, the way fewer air bubbles, far fewer air bubbles you're going to have. Once again, that is something that just happens. You look at that Sculpey and go, yeah, that's an air bubble. I can tell there's a bubble under there. Do I want it there? Because that's where it does some of this interesting fracture stuff here. So let's throw these guys out. Now, oxide paste. There we go. From Vallejo. You've seen me use this plenty of times. Man, we're just gonna find a little extra brush right here. So this is one of my old, you can see there's some oxide paste down there. It's a beat up old craft brush there. It's kind of outlived its usefulness as a regular brush. What I'm going to do is alter my focus a bit here. And we are going to start putting some oxide paste on our little base right here. And what are we doing? Filling in these little gaps. Got another gap we need to fill in over here. Because that's what this stuff is really great at. It's great at filling up those gaps. If you're just gonna need something to attach it, well, that's where you're just gonna use glue. But see, we got this little bit of overhang here on this edge. I'm going to get this to where I can use it. And right here, same thing. And here. Down onto the base. Like so. Alright. That pretty well takes care of that. What we can do is get ourselves some rocks and gravel. So this is some heavier rocks right here. And then just some finer sand and gravel. I've started to just kind of throw that mix in there a little bit more these days. So let's do this. Just throw a few rocks into there. Throw some rocks into here. Over here too. Just move those around. Now, did I want to put a skull there? Do I want to use a flaming skull? One of these. What the heck? Let's pop one of these guys in here. It's right there. Flaming skull. I move these just out of my way. And just gonna drop some of this finer sand and gravel. So now we get a little bit of a layered system here. like that. Get him out of the way. Oh, we got this one. Yeah, let's do this one right here. Gonna do is our same oxide paste. We're gonna fill in this gap a bit. Not gonna wipe out the cork completely there. I will throw a little bit down here. And I'm gonna throw a dot of glue here because let's throw another one of the flaming skulls on here. Boom. Why? Because, well, the Grey Knights, they weren't really Grey Knights, they were Demon Hunters, because as people know, when I last played 40k, it was during 4th edition, and that's when you had stuff like the Demon Hunters, and that was my army. It was actually mostly Inquisitor retinues and Stormtroopers, very few Grey Knights. So there's that. Let's get in here with some more of our oxide paste, and what this does is it just makes that edge a little less crazy. We're not going to kill it completely everywhere, but just seeing that one area, even if we don't put rocks over that, that's a little niftier. This, in this case, see, we got an overhang right here. That's actually going to add some strength to it. Adds a little bit of, when this stuff dries, it dries pretty hard. It dries really hard. So that supports our Sculpey overhang. Always good to do. And, oh, I need to get this little edge right here. I'll drop a few my bigger rocks in there. Some of them fall away, no big deal. Means they probably would have fallen away during the painting process. Like I said, I apologize for any kind of weirdness with the cameras or whatever. But I wanted you guys to see this, and the other area is just not a good place for doing basing videos, because that should really be meant for painting and not something like this. And I'm trying out some new cameras too, like I said. That's why I wanted to do it also on something you're more familiar with, a process like that. If you've seen the old sculpting marble, is it marble, tile, and cobblestone bases? Yeah, that's what it was called. Because this way you don't need to see every last little bit of it to kind of get a sense of what was going on. Now here, I see there's actually way more of a gap than I thought over here. Well, we have all these little sculpey pieces sitting around. Now this one is a little bit taller. I still got my tools around here. So how about we do something like this? See if this will fit in there. Yeah, look at that. So that fits in there. We have ourselves another level now. And what are we going to do? We're going to seal that in with a little bit of our oxide paste. Going to take some of my larger rocks, get those in. Do a couple here. Now, with my middle grade sand and gravel, there's another one. Now Now this one's going to really need a lot of the oxide paste because look at all those big gaps that we got to cover. Let's get this right down in here. So what I'll do is before I do, say, the Necron texture roller stuff and the, what was it, the Tau and the Eldar stuff, I'll probably make some more adjustments to this. This really is, it's more of a test of the area than it is just a pure, straight up hardcore video. It's almost, I mean, it's almost more like a YouTube Live in a way than it is just a standard kind of typical video. But I had to know, well, can this machine even do this? Because I needed to know, well, what happens when I do this on not hardwired into the internet and stuff. I had no idea what might happen. So it seems like it's all good. I actually throw a little bit of glue in there. A little bit of glue. And then some rocks. Again, over here. Over here. We'll finish it off with some of our sand and gravel. Now we got a couple of our small bases here, and really this is the only one that needs the oxide paste. And it's just going to go around that edge that we talked about here. Because before, when I would do these type of Sculpey bases, there was always this clearly defined line there, and people would say, well, why is there not a difference? Why didn't you paint a difference there? Why is there, they have this clearly defined line, but yet the colors are all the same? It's not like there's a little bit of almost like marble there. It's the same color as the stone underneath it, or the earth underneath it, rocks. So I just said, okay, forget it. I'm just going to start covering that with the oxide paste like this. And then there's no clearly defined edge to see, and it kind of solve that problem. And I can even take broken bits of Sculpey and chuck them in there. Yeah, it's nothing, none of this stuff is super complex at all. Once you have a little hint of the process, it's not that hard. Let's get some of our bases out here. So we're all good to go now for priming. What we'll do is we'll let these guys dry. There's our little collection of bases. I'm going to let all that dry. Then we'll prime it. Then we'll let that dry. And then we'll paint it. And like I said, we'll do our red marble. We'll do our letters. I think that's the part that you have never really gotten to see. I haven't really done a new painting marble video. This is just kind of a way to lead into that. So we'll be right back with our primed bases in just a second. We've got our bases primed up here. We kept it simple. Just basically use this sandy colored Stynylrez primer, and I just brushed it on. Because the idea is we're going to go over this with glazes and washes with our liner paints. We'll wipe it away with our sponges. So all of this lighter color is going to be revealed. And what we'll do is we'll focus on the red marble, our lettering, and our, right here, working on our tiles. I might have to split those up. It depends on just how quickly all this goes, but we'll see. Again, these things you could just use plastic rod for. That's what I used to use back in the day before I found the secret weapon shell casings, but I thought, that might just kind of get in the way of what we're doing with painting the marble and everything else. So let's get these out of the way here. And we'll put out the usual liner paints here. So we'll focus on red, gray, brown, sepia, some clear reds. I did also throw in this golden yellow. It's another Reaper color right here. It's just a little more of an orange than the clear yellow, which tends to be more of a lemon yellow. I'm going to move some of these guys off to the side here, and we'll just start out with those glazes. So we're going to throw out our brown liner first. Here we go. Put that right there in the corner. Get some more of that going. We'll get some gray liner too. Right there. Some sepia liner here. And we'll wait on the other stuff. I'll throw out some red liner here. Get this over here, and hopefully I still have good one of these guys. And all I'm doing is just getting myself a little bit of water over here. It doesn't take a whole bunch. I can use the brush too, but this is also a somewhat easier way of doing that. We're good to go. Let's just grab a base. Now let's start mixing some of this up. So here's a brown liner. Here's a gray. And what are we doing here? We are just going to fill in. I'll probably have to throw out some more of the brown and the gray. But you see, I just reached for some sepia liner right there, and I didn't even water it down. Didn't even water it down, because we're going to be wiping away a fair amount of this. So a little more here. Painting the bases, it's always, to me, it's a real fun thing. I enjoy it. They're almost, when they're like this, they're almost like 2D paintings. And actually, just thinking about my old Sisters of Battle army, I was thinking of maybe doing some mural style bases again. So we'll just look at what happens when we wipe this away. You can still see some of that sepia liner left behind. Here we'll wipe away a little more. And then we'll compare the two. So you can see we've, in no time at all, we got ourselves some shading there. I've even got some sponges that are in smaller shapes. Maybe do some more targeted removal, like here. Let's set this aside, move on to our next one. You notice that I focus with this gray and brown liner more in those recesses. I'm just going to leave the camera not locked in, or not as drawn close in as I have. I'll do that when it comes time for painting the marble effects on the top. When you're moving it around this much, having it super close just kind of, it's not very fun to be trying to track things as it twirls around in my hand. So there's a lot of moving parts right here. So just getting all that good stuff down into those crevices there. Don't be shy. And now I could have gone in and done some sort of, I'm just going to actually throw a little bit of the red liner there, get even more of a difference. Could have primed it darker and then done the light to or dark to light priming thing. Yeah, could have done that, but I'm just going to cut this sponge here. Could have done that. But eventually, when you're adding that lighter primer color anyway, you're going to wipe out some of some of your dark shading. So this, with so many rough surfaces like that, it just makes sense. We got the sponges anyway. We know how to use the sponges. We know they work. Why not just utilize something you know works? So you can wipe some of that away. Look at all the massive amounts of contrast that we got. I'm going to do a couple of these small ones real quick just to make sure I've got enough or how much I'm going to need to cover the two big ones. I think there's two 40 mils left. So here we'll just, look at this, not even using water. Just right over the top there. And then strategically, I'm going to think this way, because if I go like this, it's less likely to stay down in those crevices. But I'm not necessarily going to wipe it away completely everywhere. I'm going to think already a little bit about the staining of the base as I work on this here. So let's take our other. So I just look at the difference straight away. It does not take. It's not so difficult. Now this, I will say, when you do the rocky stuff on the side like we did here, that's going to take up a little more paint. You're going to have to do more heavy-duty glazing like this. The reward is you get a little more juicy texture, but texture can be harder to paint, at least as far as how much paint you're going to use. The cork is also that much more absorbent than the Sculpey. Sorry about the throat clearing there. It's just one of those things. Let's go throw in some red liner and just take a little bit of water, get that down into the crevice there, and back with a sponge. Now by waiting a little while, all my rocks stayed in place. Sometimes as you do that method, the rocks may fall off. You could glue them back on if you are that, desirous of having that rock and right in that place. You can always glue it back on there. But I always expect some to fall off. It's interesting, I think because I let this sit basically overnight, the glue had a better chance to take hold. There we go. Throw in a little more of the brown liner out there. And bang. And you notice I tend to hit the sides of the base first, and then move up to the top. Well, the top is where I want to have even more color variation. So let's establish what we need to establish here first, and then work on the top part of this. So just about got that with our dark in there. Now I'm going to take some of that red liner again, pop it in there, because that's where the red marble's going to go. And some sepia liner. Look at this. It's not that big a deal. Just get the paint on there. Worry more about that and being random with it, because you will be amazed at what ideas you get when you just see random paint colors like this. You can already see there's a little bit of that red peeking through. Boom, see? Just a little bit of that red shows through. Now we've got our statue piece. Look at that. In no time at all, we've got ourselves what already looks like a painted statue. And I'm going to throw out a little more brown liner here just for this last one. Make sure I got enough. So I'm going to probably 10 minutes in, I may have to do something like I think I'll save the graphics for last as far as doing the words. I think we'll do that in a separate segment. Just don't want to have to rush that through to squeeze it in my 40-minute window that I like to do. And I think too, it might be better for you to sort of visually reset before we get into something quite like that. Still focused in on these deep crevice areas here. Down in there now, we'll grab our sepia. Boom, like that. Red liner, boom, didn't even bother water it down. Sponge. Okay, even now you can see the red streaks versus the sepia streaks, cutting up that sponge, making a different shape. And you can see even here, look what I'm doing. Actually, why don't I even grab one of these makeup sponges here? See that? I can even start to think which, that's where my letters are gonna go. It's already that nifty little smooth thing going on there. So there's lots of ways to take advantage of these preliminary glazes that we're putting on here. And that's just about it. And look how much that stays behind. It's the neat thing about the liner paints. I know there's the GW paints that came out and all that other stuff. Yeah, I can play with those and screw around with them, see what they can do. But we already know what these can do. We don't have to sit there, screw around, find a whole nother way of working. Now, I always say experiment, so that's why I don't say no. I have a whole pile of GW paints that we brought back from Adepticon, stuff I've never used before. All new colors, I've never seen them, have no idea what they do. But we'll try them out. Like I said, I have no problem with trying out new things. Okay, look at this. This is where our, look at that. See how far, look at how wide the bristles are spread out on that. I just love those brushes. So we're gonna zoom in a touch here. Let's see. I'm not gonna be moving it as much, so I think we'll be all right. You can see how this has sort of a warm gray feel to it. We'll throw this in here. Look at how it contrasts a bit with the sepia that's there. We're doing a real gentle, it's not a dry brush. There's plenty of paint on that brush. So I can even wipe some of that away. Where's my, another little cut up piece of sponge. Oh, look at that. Right on that edge. Gives us some nifty contrast. But you see how some of that yellow shows through? That's definitely part of what we want to have happen. So we got to determine, I'm going to say this one, this is the lighter stone, the one next to it's going to be the darker one. That should be fun. And then here, this part's going to be lighter too. So we move on, another base. Let's hit this piece of statue. And because there's still some wet paint on it, we might even get a little bit of wet into wet happening. We can even paint some cracks on this thing. So we'll have some fun with this little piece of statue. I believe this particular piece is a Cyborg's Miniatures, if you're wondering where this thing comes from. But like I showed you in the other thing, Green Stuff World has tons of these. Let's see, there's the lion, there's an Egyptian theme set. There is, I haven't done wolf yet, but there's an Aztec theme. There's a Greek theme. So they already have plenty of nifty different themes. I'm going to go, why did I go with the lighter tile on this side? Because there's more cracks. Here we have this spidery crack. Now you can really see what was sculpted in. So what I've actually done is made some changes to that filming station, since you saw that first couple of segments there. Actually got a different camera set up for that. Everything else mostly the same, but I basically had to battle test it, because I tried that other camera thing. I tried 20 different experiments with it, and I thought it was all good to go, and then I started using it and all heck broke loose. So I'll let that dry a little bit, and then I dusting over a little bit of this lighter color in there. So once again, we're gonna get some of that, and that's that gray liner. When you mix it with the sepia liner, you get, or I'm sorry, the maiden flesh. See, just a little bit of a pinkish gray. And I'm going to go here once again, like so. Plenty of paint on your brush. We'll hit this. And these will get lighter too. We're alternating. See, like so. I had to go here because I wanted my light one to be here. And now we're going to do the same thing over the top here. And I was talking about this on another video. Those people are starting to use these watercolor pencils. I used them. Well, for watercolors, I really don't know about using it for miniatures. Hey, by all means, give it a shot. See what happens. By all means. Actually, weathering powders, I've had fun with those on the bases, actually quite literally painting with them. Now here we're going to have sort of a fiery glow on that. Oh, that's the other thing. So we'll do one segment after this. And that's where we'll take care of those special things like any glowing skulls. I think there's one. Yeah, there's just the one. So we'll take care of that. Maybe the statue head and our graphics, our text on these. So let's go now a little bit more with the made in flesh, because I'm sure you thought I had used plenty of white on this area in the sample ones. I don't know if I had white at all. May not have used even a little bit of white on there. So look at how we're just scumbling right over the top, leaving what's already been done somewhat exposed, showing through. I'm leaving that darker. And let's add a little more. Probably we'll throw out a little more of the made in flesh too. The cracks, that's not the final thing they're going to be. We're going to paint into those, and we're also going to even add some cracking to those. But look at how spread out that brush is. That's just fantastic. Absolutely love that. Absolutely love it. So that one needs to be lighter. We'll just keep moving on. But we don't want to have only this made in flesh / gray liner. We want to get a little more sepia in there, so once I'm finished using this, I'll get some more of the made in flesh out on the palette. And what we'll do is we'll mix some of that with the sepia liner. As we got one last, I think there's just enough for this. Yep. So we're just feeding that into the brush. And away we go. There. Like so. See, I can actually just quite literally scumble that on there. I'm going to go with one more round of the maiden flesh on that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I've done some of the green stuff roller bases. I've painted those. But I think the only other, maybe the mosaic tile. Yeah, that's probably the only other one that you've actually watched me paint in a video that's not one of the older painting pyramid ones. Now, I'm sure there is a difference between the method that was used then and the method that I'm using now, but it's probably the general principles are still pretty much the same. I don't think there was the same kind of text like we have through this zone right here. I don't think that was on there. Once again, we're avoiding doing the white stuff for right now. Just gonna drag this over the top. Again, not a dry brush. Not a dry brush at all. Where are we at here? It's a little more here. Just catching some of these raised edges. That's the benefit of this type of soft, long bristle filbert, is that you can do this sort of feathered brush stroke. It's not that hard dry brush type stuff where you end up getting what almost looks like, oh, that's the word I'm looking for. It looks grainy. That's it. This does not have the grainy look because you're just painting, you're dragging just normal paint over the top. You're not like hitting it with a Brillo pad or something, because that's what it seems like people are doing when they're trying to do that, the classic, in a sense, dry brush stuff. Now, while I've got this here, see, we still got sepia liner left. I'm going to mix a little of the sepia liner in there. Spread this out. And now we'll change up that color just a touch. It's even a lighter effect here, as in lighter touch, not just lighter color. I'm going to get these off to the side here so I know which ones we've messed around with and which ones we haven't. Now over here, see how that changes? That's going to change color a little bit from a yellowish to more of a cooler tone, and then we stop. It's not a little more there, and that's it. Because what that does is it creates more of that staining type effect. And in we go here. Let's get a touch of it on our statue face there. But you don't want to super highlight this face here, because it's going to look like less like ruined stone and more like a freshly carved statue that was just hit with a hammer. Couple of more of these to go. Actually, what I will do next is I might need to throw a little more gray liner out. So here's what we'll do. We'll hit the... Oh, where's my gray liner? What we're going to do is our other tiles, those darker gray ones that you saw, maybe even finalize our here. Because I'm thinking the marble, I'm also going to make that a separate segment. I don't want to have to just slam through it and rush through it. So this was supposed to be more about painting the bases than it was about building them, because I think you've seen the other tutorials that sort of covers it, but I don't think there is any tutorial that shows this process being done. So I thought that you could really get something out of this, and it was a good way for me to test out that new basing area, because I've got, oh my goodness, well, I'm filming another basing one tonight, another one tomorrow. I realized that in order to do more than just one basing video every so often, I need an area dedicated just for that. Because I think you saw the mess that was being made. It takes, if I was to do that here, which I had been doing all along, this area is destroyed, and it takes hours to clean it all up and get it ready to go for just regular painting. It was really delaying the progress of things. You don't know any of this stuff till you try it. There's no way to know what kind of impact that would have. So let's do some quick little marble effects here, and then we'll move into the red marble. So again, brushes spread out. This gray is a little bit wet, which is good, because now this is going to do a touch of wet blending. But see, we got that chisel edge we talk about all the time. Look at that. Look at the difference there. Look at that. We'll do another one here. Now we're a little limited on some of these because there's just not that much of a tile. Here we got more to work with. And let's do that. Now on this one, I'm going to add some more dark. After the fact. Okay, this one needs that too. And I think we've added the lighter element to that. Now we've got another craft brush that has more of a pristine sort of a point, so we're going to grab that and our darker gray liner. And do a couple of things here. We're going to darken up that corner, spice up that line a little bit, darken it down. Once again, back in with some more of our gray liner here. It's a nice dark color. It's what I've been using now to paint on the corners of my, or the sides of my bases, and even on the movement trays for the Song of Ice and Fire stuff. So I won't get too wrapped up into things like the cracks, because we'll save that for when we're doing our letters. But I also want to get some of these darker grays, parts of the marble where the dialogue's going to be, our words. But also here, so we'll wipe some of the excess away. And now I'm going to do some dark here. Right here too. So I can even wipe some of that away. But now, doing a little bit of our, yeah, more of a little bit of a line right here. And here, let's get some of this. One last base. And now go in a little lighter here. And this is where we put in a little bit of the lighter veins. Let's do this. See, that's all it takes. We don't want to get too intense with that because the red marble really is where it's all at. Just given the hint that there is a vein of lighter. If that gets too light, we'll just wipe some of it away. And after a little bit, we're going to go in the end with a smaller brush, finer brush, and you can do that in a little more detailed way. What we'll do is we'll set this up. I think we'll tackle our red marble next and these gold lines here. So we'll be right back with that. Let's get into our red marble here real quick. And we just got that clear red. And we've got some of the red liner. Let's just throw some of that over here. Get a little of the clear red into the red liner. Like so. Alright. Now when we're doing this with the the way the marble is and the edge, we can't be quite so as carefree as the way we were with the other marble colors because we need that edge right there. And now we've got red. So, and I don't really worry if it's not covering everything 100%. That's no big deal because we have plenty of lighter aspects to add to this puppy here. So I just again start setting these things off to the side. Here we go. Back to our red like so. And here really this part of the red marble, it has to be sort of dinged up a little bit. I guess we can call it that. And away we go. Like so. Now this will be a little trickier. We gotta squeeze in our red marble over here. And we got a couple of the small bases to do. One more. And there we have it. Now we're going to take some of that lighter red. I don't even know if I had stuff like red liner and clear red when I first painted it. I'm pretty sure I didn't even have that. I had to use something else. See how that added, just it made it a little bit lighter in some places. Painting again. So we're going to go like this. We can even take some of that away. But we're using the ability for the brush to sort of spread itself out a bit. Trying to get as many of these random things as possible. So we're going to start here. See how I spread the brush out. Almost give it a little bit of a twist. Because right there we know, well, that's where there's going to be probably a lighter vein of red. That's why I like these, the bigger ones. It gives you a little more room to play with that marble effect. One last base here. It's still fairly wet. So what I'll do is I'm going to get some yellow out here. There we go. And now we can do our little bit of a gold-ish line. It sort of separates those two areas. And if some of the red gets in there, no big deal. Some of the, well, I wish I had some sepia liner that was still left. I'm going to just throw some more out there. Alright, and it's not going to make a huge difference in color, but you can see there's just a little more of a yellowness to it. And this is pretty dark at this point too. And we'll lighten this up with a little bit of the maiden flesh. So you can really start to see this is all that texture that we carved in those initial couple of segments. Good, still got a little bit of the maiden flesh left. And we just lighten one part of it. We'll actually darken down some of the surrounding areas. You can really see the difference there. It's almost like when I do those sword blades. Think of it sort of like that. You could, maybe it's some sort of, I don't want to say inlaid gold, but I think you've seen that in some marble where there's almost like a little inlay in there, and that part is sort of on the shiny side, and the rest of the marble is not quite, well, certainly not quite shiny. Which way are we going? I'll go this way with the lighter aspect. Same thing here. And because I got this light here, I'm going to say it makes sense to have this part be lighter, and then as it gets darker towards either side of that. And I believe this is the last one, and I'm going to start lighter over here, and then just let it work its way over there, become a little darker. Now we've got the red. We already have our yellow out here. Let's try and get some of these marble patterns going. So see, we're going to do this. You might even get a little water station nearby here. What we're going to do is a little bit of this. So we start to build, starting to build a little bit of that lightness next to the darker sections. You can go both ways. You can do that with a darker color. I just happen to be doing it with a lighter color here. Where are we at? We'll go like this. But always have enough variation. And I also have to make sure that this doesn't look too much like it's on fire. Here we are. Let's do a little bit of a right there. Now this, I don't want to do too much of the marble in this, because we got that whole statue face thing right there. But I am going to utilize the, see how I utilize the wedge shape of the brush there? That's just the nifty part of these brushes. It gives you so many chances. There, let's do some more of that now. And see how that, look at, I can do a thin line, this huge thing like this, but because it's also got that chisel edge, you say, well, why don't you just use a smaller brush for that? Well, I want this to break up a little bit more naturally. See how it's sort of broken like that? Happens easier when the brush is just naturally doing that. It doesn't look quite so forced, like some human went in there and said, okay, this is exactly where this vein of marble is gonna go because it should go there. Once that randomness is created, then I can go in with the even finer brush and add some more things to it. And this is just a quick down and dirty marble for you. On other projects where it's going to be that much more elaborate, well, maybe we'll take a little more where it's maybe just painting, but you already have, I think there was actually an hour, almost an hour and 10 minutes just of carving stuff. So if we tack on another 2 hours of painting, that's a really long video. So again, we're just trying to make this a little bit quicker. I think it also goes along, since this is sort of in a way more of an army painting, it's kind of geared towards that. You're going to want to know a faster way to work through these. Now we've got our good, still got dark colors left, like a red liner. What are we doing with that? We actually are going to take a smaller brush now. And now then we can go in here and add some darker, finer veins to that. Just keep going with that. Some of our other marble pieces here. I think I might actually throw on a glove for the last few bits, like painting the words on, because there's so much paint on my hand that might be a little distracting for you to watch something where we're doing, say, the cracks. This is where you're really, I think, going to see it. On this one here. But I don't want to wipe out everything. I don't want to make it all this darker, that darker red. And sometimes, and this is something I've learned since the, you can see a little bit, see I'm doing actually a darker vein, painting that over the mid-tone lighter area. That's something I realized as the more I studied marble. Now again, you can go onto my blog. There's got to be 40 different blog posts that show all kinds of marble. Blue marble, green marble, different shapes of it as far as the way the veins are done. I'll try to cover all of those here in video form too. Like I said, I'll probably just do tutorials only on the painting of the marble. And this is another area. See, I can go in here and add basically a darker vein in there. A little indication of it there. Just like so. Doesn't take a whole lot. Then I will throw out one last bit of yellow here. Get some maiden flesh out. And we'll do that, the lightest of the light parts of the vein. Let's just do that real quick, and that'll be the last thing we do in this stage. So here it is, right along the side there. But see how that gets increasingly smaller and finer. This is another good one. Let's give that a second or two more to dry. We got plenty more. And look at, see it, it's right along the edge. We're putting the lightest part right next to the darkest part. And if it's too light or too regular, we move it or remove it. And even this lightest light, when you think about it, is nothing more than it's a yellow, but there's no white in here. So look at all the tiny little things that we've worked in. There, all those little tendrils. You don't have to do this equally on all of them either. I do suggest sometimes taking the miniature and at least if it's not already on something else, maybe you, like say that dowel rod that you saw him on, you might want to at least put him near the base and go, oh yeah, well they're going to be, his foot's going to go right there, so I'm not going to put something super interesting right where his foot's going to go. So This is our last one here that's dry enough to get some paint on. And what are we doing? We're doing that same thing where we're just breaking that up into smaller, finer bits. And we'll do the same thing with the gray too. And so we'll call that done. Next thing we're going to tackle is the lettering and then do some of the cracks over that. Maybe even paint our glowy skull. We'll see. It depends just how much time there is for all that. But definitely the letters and cracks next. One of our last tasks here to do is our lettering, our script across the top. And you can see it's somewhat circular based. Let's see if we can't replicate that. So we'll get our E first, and I'm going to get that centered. And what I do is I just sort of indicate this is the red liner and the brown liner. Semicircle there, almost like a C, and then we close it off like so. And there's our crossbar for the E. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more of a serif here. We'll get this looking a little more of an uncial look. So we'll do that. Now we've got to get our M in here. See how I do that relatively thin? Put our serifs on the bottom. Now we're going to make some parts of this thicker here, just like we did on the E. Like so. Give it that serif like we talked about. Now there's a little bit of an optical illusion where you want to make your round letters actually taller than your more rectangular square letters like the M, because even though they're the exact same size, the I is going to make them look smaller. It's a weird thing, but it's something I learned a while back in my lettering and design class. They certainly don't have those anymore. So here we'll give that a little bit of thickness. Like so. And then do another E here. Like I said, we're going to go right over, close that off, get a little bit of thickness there. You could take a pencil and draw this out first if you're more comfortable with that. But for me, I've done this an awful lot, so I'm pretty used to it. Now we'll get an R in here. Now I may not do this on every single base, because do you really need, you don't necessarily need to see this several times, be this sort of the same. I'm trying to get a few different letters here. So here's your R, and then we'll just indicate that there's an O here, like so. Now we also wanted to indicate some cracks in some of this. We got one right here. This is one that we carved in. But we're also going to add some elements to this that weren't carved in, like here. And we'll do some more. Another one here. It's almost like we chipped out some of that. And Now we'll play a little bit of connect the cracks like we did. And this is where we've got that almost more like a blast mark here on this particular tile. That breaks that shape up a little bit. And now we've got ourselves something with some writing on there. Some cracks. What if we were to do that here on this? Not even going to bother to paint the leaves. So it's just going to be a greenish color. I think that is something you can pretty well just do on your own. I'm going to give that a little bit of darker shading though first. It's a little bit of that sepia liner. Just to show that that's broken. And then we're going to do maybe a little bit of staining slash streaking here. Like so. A little more here. Where it sort of meets the ground. And now, let's do a little different word here. What do we got? Making sure that's positioned the right way. So, boy, I almost did this upside down. Glad I double checked the orientation on that. So I'm going to reinforce a couple of these lines. And I might even, let's say I'll paint some of these cracks before I do the letters here. Sometimes I like to do these little triangle cracks like that. And there's another one up here. So we'll try and see, I even did a little more of a light one right there. And we'll do one there. So we got some nice cracks working, and let's see if we can get a different letter here. That's a G, and once again there's a serif there. And you can see how it's not the same thickness everywhere. We're making it thicker basically on what's tantamount to the vertical surfaces. Another serif here on the L. And then we'll see if we can get the O here. And do I have that? Yeah, there you go. It's the one in the upper right hand corner. I was looking around for the reference. So we're going to, like we did on the E, like that. And then we'll put that little cross inside the O, even though there's a whole bunch of cracks around it. Sort of makes it look a little less like a big target there. And then the R. And good enough. Gets the point across. Now we'll let's do a different set of letters on this. One of the more common letters for the words to start out with is a T. So let's do that. See if we can come up with some kind of. First we're reinforcing some of our darker lines. Put in a few more of these cracks here like so. And this is the nice thing. See, we painted our sculpted cracks, and now we're just adding a few additional ones. Now let's get some letters in here. So we'll, whoops, I didn't quite finish off that line there. So let's start off with a T, remembering our serifs. Let's do an H here. Like that, making sure that we get our serifs on there. Oh, what the heck, we'll just pop in an E right there. And we'll just indicate maybe an O right there for whatever reason. Like I said, and we just do this across all the different bases. So I think I'm not going to bother doing that glowing green skull because this is already, it's already a pretty long video, and well, we've done object source lighting before. This little bit of calligraphy right here, this is something you haven't had before, so I'm just going to emphasize this a touch more here. Alright, let's get some cracks in here. Now let's do a little different word. Start off with the I there. Work that into an N. And usually that part of the N is the part that's thick. There's usually a couple of different type of Fs. We won't do one with the fleur. We'll just keep it more of a Romanesque type. Now we're going to need our E. Little indication of it. You can see how I'm just letting the paint sort of run out there like it's a little bit faded. And now let's continue over to this side. I'm going to put a U here. It's going to be barely visible because between all the cracks and everything else. So that gives us a nice indication of something. Let's add a few little subtle cracks there. Strengthen that line. Okay. few more, reinforcing the cracks again. And one more here. That. Alright, one more. Yeah, let's do this. So we'll go with a D here. And let's say something where it just doesn't quite go right. You can always wipe it off or just paint over the top of it. Just going to indicate that right there. Here's our M. Yeah, so hopefully you don't mind if I don't mess around with the flaming skull. Because that, you've seen plenty of object source lighting stuff. Even the most recent tutorial had object source lighting on a base. But what it certainly didn't have was this, and this is old school. This is what I used to have to do before, long before there was any Green Stuff World texture rollers. There was nothing like that. This is how I had to do all of my basing. This is the old-fashioned way. It wasn't impossible. It wasn't super difficult, but you can see it takes a little bit longer. How long did we spend carving just these bases? Certainly a whole lot longer than the Green Stuff World bases. So now you know why I use those more, because it is, in the end, it's faster. No doubt about it. It's definitely a little bit faster. Let's connect our O there. I'll bring the same word over here. So there will be finished images of these as usual. Maybe not right away, but eventually they all end up on the blog. And you can always search under basing techniques. It's a huge category. I don't know how many hundreds of posts are there. Because believe me, there's got to be hundreds and hundreds of those. So I'm putting in those cracks here and these other bits and pieces. So let's, after a few more reinforcements on the lines, one last time. So get our D in here. And let's say we even change up the spelling. And sometimes when it's a longer base like this, so what I'm doing here, I'm just sketching that I'm not finishing any of the letters. Just doing this because this lets me know how much of the word's going to get in there. And bang, that is the last letter. Again, our serif. So this gives you a few different letters to sort of arm yourself with. I think this gives you a few different ways to think about it. Like I said, you can use a pencil if you want. The other thing you could do is practice this on another piece of paper at the same size. Do it several times. And that gives you that muscle memory that you want. And as soon as that's just sort of planted in your head, makes it a little bit easier then to execute it on the base itself. And I can go in and clean these things up as much as I want. I suppose there's one quick last thing. Let's see, I'm going to throw some more just where I can get to it easier. Some sepia liner here. Touch the brown. And we'll make ourselves a little bit of a glaze. And then I can see we're just we're just putting a little bit of a staining effect there. I'm gonna take away some of the paint. Sorry. Been a tough day for that. So what we did was just indicated a little bit of staining here. Right along these corners. Makes the base look that much more aged. So that's kind of a nifty thing to do. Let's try that on another one here. We'll go right here with that. So I can even do it on the reddish marble part 2 and maybe even on just some of these tiles. Not every single one. So let's do that some here. I try to obviously focus some of that staining along the edge because as if it broke and there. See, now we now we have a little bit of a difference there between our tile, even though they're technically the same color. Now there's a little bit of difference there, and we'll once again we'll pop in a little bit of a staining effect along here, like so. Especially, remember we talked about doing that down here on this bottom tile, doing some staining down there. It adds a lot, gives it, I don't want to say a touch of realism, but in some ways it is, adding a little bit of realism to it. Maybe some of your letters didn't come out quite the way you wanted. Well, you throw out a little extra staining there and now it hides things a little bit. This is also why I didn't get too worried and too caught up in painting those gray tiles, because I know I could do a little bit of staining like this after the fact. I think this might be just about our last one. So like I said, I'm just going to paint up the skull on the base, or I might even just rip that off. We'll see. But in any case, as always, thanks for watching the video. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for supporting the Patreon page. It's much appreciated. I'm just glad that there's other folks that appreciate basing the way I do. It's when I created the pledge level, I wasn't really sure if anybody was going to jump onto that. I had hoped that people would, because I just really have so much fun doing this. I mean, look how much this adds to the figure. And remember, we're going to be seeing these bases again because I'm doing those gray nights. And for those of you that saw here, where's the painted? Here we go. So they'll be painted a little bit like this guy right here with all the alabaster effects and everything. Well, at least the one or two will be. Other ones I might do different colors like shiny metal, something like that. But this, I believe, gives you a pretty good idea how to take on not just marble, but also some lettering, some tile, something that I'd never had a chance to put on film before. So thanks again for watching, as always. I appreciate that, and I'll catch you again on the next basing video.